Hear me in the back? Yeah? Okay, cool deal. So I'm going to walk around. So I'm going off the script a little bit. Like, I'm not trying to trick Paul or anything like that, but instead of talking to you just about my life, I really wanted to come and give you guys something that I feel like will benefit you. But it does come from what I know in life. So what I thought about, and this is how I came to being able to talk about what we're going to talk about, is I was like, man, if I was in a room, what would I want to hear about? Like, what's going to be the thing that's going to help me the most? And there's two things that I'm going to give you. One is I'm going to give you a story. And then two, I'm going to give you all the pieces out of that story that will be super useful to you, your families, and what you're doing in life, okay? So if you know the story, fine. Like, you can go along with it. You might not heard it told like the way I'm going to tell it. If you don't, and that's cool too. It's going to work out for everybody. All right, so the first thing I got to tell you before we even get into the story is that everybody in this room has to understand, like, we're all kings and queens. We're all kings and queens. And you may not fully feel that, and you're like, man, what is he saying right now? But I need you to kind of like understand on the inside, whether you've realized that in your life or not, that is on the inside of you. We can't even have this conversation if I don't let you know that first, and if at some rate you don't kind of already know that you're a king and queen right now. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is my story. And so there's a story about a young boy, and the young boy was actually somebody who took care of sheep. Right? So he took care of sheep. That was his job, is to make sure the sheep get to where they need to go to. Right? It just so happened while he was taking care of his sheep, his family was in a battle. And they were in a battle with basically a big bully, a giant. And while they're in this battle with this giant, everybody's scared, even the warriors. Everybody. Matter of fact, the king of their family was like, hey, does anybody in their family have somebody who could handle this giant, because this giant's tearing us up? And everybody's like, we don't have anybody. We don't have anybody. But this young boy overheard that the giant was like picking on his family. And what does the giant do again? Or what does the little boy do again? He heard sheep, and so he takes care of things, right? You guys understand that? Like, he heard sheep, but he takes care of things. That's his nature. Right? So then he hears the giants kind of messing with his family. And he says, well, I got to do something about this. I got to do something about it. Right? And everybody's like, no, not you, little boy, because you're just the sheep herder. All you do is do sheep. He's like, nah, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it. Right? So it comes down to where he actually has to convince them. Like, hey, guys, I'm the only thing left. You guys are over there hiding. You're supposed to be warriors. Right? And he's like, at least maybe try me. So he said, let me tell you something to help convince you. One time, a bear came to try to get the sheep, and I took that bear and swung him by his tail and threw him out, and he was done. They're like, okay, all right. He's like, well, but if that doesn't convince you, a lion came to try to get the sheep, and I swung him around and threw him out, and he was done too. Right? And they said, okay, well, we'll let you go. Since you said that you could do all that, we'll let you go. So he said, okay, maybe I need something else, though, to take down this giant, right? So they said, we have armor for you. So they started to try to put the armor. He's so small. This is how small he was. He couldn't even carry the armor. He couldn't even carry the armor. Like, he's trying to walk with it, and he's like, I can't even lift my arms. He goes, you know what? Let me just take it off. Let me just take it off. I'll do whatever I do. So it's time. It's time to go to battle. The one thing he does have is a slingshot. So he takes out that slingshot. He's running towards the giant. Right? They're about to battle. The giant's ready. He's like, man, I'm about to take care of this little dude. But he throws, or he slings out his rock, and boom, hits the giant in the head. The giant has a sword on his side right here. And sorry if this is too graphic. I know we just got done eating, but he gets the giant sword and cuts off his head. Right? Did him. It was done. And all that time, everybody was fearing the giant. And then you got this little sheep boy that was like, nah, I got this. So there's some things that we need to get out of the lesson. The one thing that everybody gets out of, anybody who's heard that story, they always think about underdog. But that really wasn't an underdog. There's three things that we can get out of the story. The first thing is confidence. In what part of that scenario, or where did that little boy get his confidence from? Where did he get his confidence from? Yep, that's one place. Where's another place? That's a huge place. Yeah, he had faith, and his faith came from what? It's what he knew. He had already taken care of people. He had already taken care of something. He had already took care of the bear and the lion. Right? So he knew what he was doing. And when we know what we're doing, we could build confidence. When what we're doing is right, we can build confidence. Right? When we're moving the way we're supposed to, we can build confidence. The other thing is awareness. And this is a huge factor for all of us. It's a sneaky word that we don't have enough in our vocabulary, which is he was more aware of what he had to do than he was of what he was not. I'm going to say it again. He was more aware of what he had to do than he was of what he was not. So he didn't think as soon as that armor didn't fit, he was like, oh man, I am too small. Maybe I cannot do this. He was like, I don't even need it. I've been through it already. I'm ready. Right? So that's where his confidence came from. The second thing is about motivation. So we said at the beginning, we have to know that we're kings and queens in here. And self-motivation comes from us understanding who we are. Who we are, what we have to do. He was fully aware that it was up to him to be a caretaker. We all have a role to start in it. And part of us being, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit in a second, is part of us being kings and queens and each one of us being able to be it. It's not really like a king and queen, like there's only one and everybody else has to be subordinate. If you're a king and you're a queen and we have everybody doing that, everybody has their thing that they get to star in. And if you could star in that thing, then we match together. We're like a puzzle. But we all have to do our thing, right? So he understood that. He was like, this is what I do. I take care of things at all costs, right? So he did that. Recognizing our responsibility is the huge concept behind that. And the second thing, and this is another word that I'll use that I want you guys to be able to have, is focus. So his focus was just on doing his best. Do you notice once they took the armor off, he still went? So everybody else's best was to have armor on. It didn't work for them. He was like, I'm not putting the armor on. My best isn't underneath the armor, right? My best is just in taking care of my family, okay? All right, so with self-motivation, you need to be able to say, like, look, I have a responsibility to myself to be better and to be more royal. I have a responsibility to myself to be able to serve my family. Okay. And then we need to be able to be more focused on what our best is. All right. And the last thing is, what about how do we perform whenever things get challenging? Right. What do we do whenever things get challenging? And so once he couldn't handle the gear, that wasn't a stopping point for him. Right. Once he couldn't handle the gear, he was like, I'm going to have to go to the thing that I'm most used to. Right. So we can't let obstacles in life be bigger than the things that we're about to do. You cannot let an obstacle in life be bigger than the thing that you're about to do. The other thing is that he wasn't a warrior. He was not a warrior. Not at least what they knew as warriors. Right? So he could have said, still, I'm not good enough. I'm too small. I only know sheep. Right? But that's not what he did. Instead, he was more aware of the task at hand and went on the mission and got his thing done. And so we have to be more aware of what's going on. When hard moments hit you, you have to become more aware of what you're capable of doing. Everybody who goes through a hard moment has already been through hard moments. Do you guys understand that? Like everybody who's going through a hard moment has already been through hard moments. You might have forgot about the hard moments, but you've already been through it. And here you are to do another one. I want us to be more aware of that one. Okay. All right, so as kings and queens, the important thing to me is that we focus on controlling the thing that we can control, and that story is all about that, right? I want to give you guys something to leave with, so that you can leave with, that you can use on a daily basis if you're willing to think about it. And I call it the life purpose skeleton. All right, so just stay with me on this. I said earlier that we're kings and queens, and in order for us to be able to understand how that works, what you have to understand is it's not up to you to change other people. It's not up to you to change other things. It's up to you to grow your stuff and then allow everybody else to benefit. Right? So there's this idea of service. So I don't mean pleasing other people, but the idea of service. What are you doing to grow you so you can be in service to other people? So think of it like a tree. Like whenever a tree produces fruit, whatever that fruit is, it doesn't say like, oh man, if you don't like apples, I'm going to have to produce another fruit. It doesn't do that. It just stays focused on being able to grow up as much as it can. And that's what we have to do as people. We have to focus on building ourselves on the inside so we can produce everything else that serves other people. So that's your skeleton. Take that and start looking at that on a daily basis. Become more aware of that. What am I thinking? What am I doing? How am I becoming the person that I need to be of service to other people? Maybe even how am I not doing that so I can grow into something else? All right. I promise if you think about that on a daily basis, your life will change immediately. You guys, it was good being able to talk to you guys. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk to you soon.